Now let's look at using logical operators. In the where clause, you can apply multiple conditions such as x equals y and x equals z and x equals a, or etc., etc., using logical operators. You break up different conditions using these logical operators, and you can have something and something, something, or a combination thereof, and you can also use not to negate the logical operator. Once again, remember what I said about precedence, where the AND logical operator takes precedence over the OR logical operator. What this means is that AND is executed before OR, unless you parenthesize. Anything in brackets will be executed first. So, let's go and take a look at some examples using logical operators. First of all, let's select everything from the category table. We get 34 rows. Now, let's once again select everything from the category table where the category ID is 1. So we're filtering out everything but the first row. And once again, we will select everything from category where the parent ID is null, and we have 4 rows. Now what we're going to do is we're going to select everything from the category table where the category ID is 1 and the parent ID is null. This is not really necessary, but it demonstrates what we can do. We could get the same result by simply specifying category ID equal to 1. But we want to show that we can find a category record specifying both of these conditions. Now let's use the OR condition and specify the category ID as being 1 or the parent ID as being null. We actually get the same as parent ID is null, but you can see the point. Now let's try another one. Let's specify that the category ID can be 1 or 2, and therefore I find the first 2 records. Now let's do something else and specify category ID as being 1 and 2. This will give me a no rows selected response. Why? Because the category ID cannot be both 1 and 2 at the same time. This demonstrates the difference between OR and AND in a very simple fashion. Now let's go and look at precedence between AND and OR. This is how we execute precedence. All this is saying is that I want to select all the category rows where the parent ID is null and either of these 2 is true. Because of the parentheses, what will happen is that the where clause will assess this statement first. So it will find category ID 1 or 2, and then after that it will assess the logical AND operator. So it will say select all records where category ID is 1 or category ID is 2, then select any records out of these where the parent ID is null as well. An easier way to show this example is to find a category ID that definitely doesn't have a null parent. So what we have is we specify the category can be one of these 2, and then we apply the parent is null condition as well on top of that. Let's try to explain precedence in a step-by-step process. First of all, what I want to do is I'm going to select the show ID and show date columns from the show table where the show date is null and the show date is not null. I find no rows because there are no rows which are both null and not null at the same time. That is, a null value in the show date and a not null value. It doesn't exist. The rows are either null or they're not null, they're not both. Now we can show all working, where it says go and select all records which are null, all records which are not null. In other words, we will select all the records, 147 rows. That is exactly the same as simply selecting all the rows from the file, as in this query.